What is good, everyone? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a reaction video to a YouTuber named SHUNchan, and the name of the video is Teaching English in Japan is Bullshit. Now, strong words, and I came across this video a couple of weeks ago, and that means I've already watched it, so this isn't like a fresh, never seen before reaction video. But actually that's a good thing, I think, because it's a really interesting take on the English education system in Japan, and I am a pretty much lifetime, or at least working lifetime, educator here in Japan. I've got over 15 years of experience teaching here, and that's what my degrees are in, etc. So I believe I'm somewhat qualified to comment on this particular video, and having had the time to think about it a little bit from my first viewing of it, I've got some thoughts and ideas that I want to share regarding the points he makes in this video. By the way, the channel is really interesting, SHUNchan. I recommend you go check it out because I've watched a number of his other videos, and I don't know, he's funny, he's interesting, he's got some really good content, so I do recommend you go check out his channel. And I think this video is pretty good, I'll tell you that up front, but let's get into it. Now, before I get into the reaction to the video itself, the like button has issued a challenge to everyone who's watching this video. If you can sit in seiza, or the Japanese kneeling position, for the entire length of the video from this point onward, you don't have to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to. However, if you get uncomfortable, if your legs fall asleep, if you squirm around and move, you have to subscribe. It's the law. Okay, let's get started.
I just realized that I am literally making myself unemployable for my future potential jobs. Let's do this. You know what? I can't do this. Okay, this is better. Okay, so before we jump right into today's main topic, English education in Japan, let's just take a step back and allow me to introduce myself formally. So, for those of you who may not know who I am a full Japanese, born and raised in Japan, and at the age of 19, despite lack of English fluency, I made a fateful decision to go to the States for college.
First observation though, I don't know why he's subtitled his own English, because his English is perfectly understandable.
Got depressed a little bit, just like any typical Japanese person would, and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in linguistics, came back to Japan and worked as an English learning teacher / coach in central Tokyo, got a perfect score on TOEIC on my first try without any pre-study. So if you would excuse me, I'd like to think that I know what I'm talking about. Rarely. So as an English learner, I've always enjoyed learning English. I basically fell in love with English, so it came pretty natural to me that I want to become an English teacher.
Now, he's talking about the fact that he liked English and was really into it, and that's why he was thinking he'd become an English teacher. That's pretty important for what he's going to get into in a moment.
I taught a variety of Japanese people, from college students to CEOs of big companies to even like English teachers who are working in public schools. So I was basically living in my dream. But 6 months in or so, I hit the rock bottom. I had this huge realization that English teaching is bullshit. I know what I just said is super productive, but let me explain myself, okay? So in Japan, we tend to associate the Japanese people's English ability with the quality of English education. We often compare Japanese people's English with other Asian people's English, let's say South Koreans, and jump straight into the conclusion that Japanese people's English sucks because English education in Japan sucks, disregarding all the linguistic factors.
Yeah, there's often these comparison charts that you see, like the TOEFL scores in Korea and China and other Asian nations that compare to Japan. It always makes Japan look really bad.
on TV and YouTube or just in everyday conversation, I see people paying a lot of attention to the educational system itself, having a discussion of what's wrong with the English education in Japan that is contributing to the Japanese people's deficiency in speaking English, saying it should be more natural and practical, just as if that would eventually make a drastic change in Japanese people's English. In Japan, so many people, like almost everyone, say we study English at least for 6 years, yet we can't speak English. Whoa, crazy!
Yeah, it's true what he says, that the focus a lot of times of people who complain about Japanese English teaching is that it's not practical. You know, they just teach to the test, and if it became more like conversational and more like everyday English for use, then it would be better. Arguably that has some merit, but it's not the whole story.
But when you really sit back and rethink about that statement, you realize that's such a bullcrap. I used to say the same thing when I was in high school, so this is more of like me ranting to my past self, but you didn't study English for 6 years. What you actually did was just to take a 15-minute class of English, maybe 3 to 5 times a week, in which you didn't even pay full attention all the time, let's be honest, over the period of 6 years. Of course that's not enough, right? Like, what do you expect? Like, it's almost equivalent to saying stuff like, 科学の授業6年間も取ったのに今全く科学のことわからんね。日本の科学教育どうかしてるよな。俺体育の授業13年間も取ったのに今全く運動神経良くないね。絶対日本の体育教育おかしいよ。But nobody says that, right? Nobody blames that one science teacher who didn't make you a scientist because that's not how it works.
That is a great analogy. I mean, it's perfect. Like, I've taken PE class for 13 years and I'm not an Olympian. I mean, yeah, duh, that's not how it works.
As simple as that. If you want to become a scientist, you have to work really hard, both inside and outside the classroom. If you want to become a professional athlete, you have to invest out of your private time, practicing on your own, not just your PE classes or extracurricular club activities. But when it comes to English, the blame is always put on the English teachers and the educational system. Like, I don't see the point of spending so much time having this discussion because I've never seen or heard of anyone that goes, I mastered my second language because I had this great teacher and all I did was to take his classes and do his homework. It's because language is heavily dependent on how much you immerse yourself in it and also how much you practice. It's not a matter of how good of a teacher or learning environment you get. What I've learned over the years of learning English and also seeing people around me who are like me learning English is that language inherently can't be taught by someone else in a classroom environment.
Yes, yes. When I first moved to Japan, I had almost basically no Japanese ability at all. I could read hiragana and I could do basic introductions and that kind of thing. And one of the first friends I made in Japan was a guy from California who had white-hot Japanese skills. And I asked him, you know, how did you do it? How did you get so good at Japanese? He was so good that he was actually like the translator / MC at my wedding. And he just said, there's no magic trick to it. It's just putting in the time and the dedication. You see a lot of people who go out and they look at textbooks in the bookstore, or they go and find the latest language application on their phone. Like, getting that new thing is going to be the magic that makes their language learning flow perfectly. It's not spending money on a textbook or getting a new app. It's taking the ones you have, taking the resources you can get for free, you know, YouTube, content, websites, whatever language you're trying to get into, like immersing yourself as much as possible is what you need to do. And now he mentions that, you know, it's not that one teacher whose class you took that made you great at English. That's, or whatever language it might be. That's not how it works. The one caveat I would say to that is it might be that one teacher that you had and you took their class and they were part of your inspiration to fall in love with that language and studying that language. So for me, I've always looked at my classroom as, yes, I'm going to teach them practical information and help them improve their skills, but there's an element of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's always going to come down to the students and their effort. And so my goal in my classroom is to try to be as inspiring and interesting as possible so that the students feel like, you know what, this is actually an interesting thing to be into, and I can relate this to my life in this way or that way. Or, I always encourage them to do things like, when you study English, take something you already like your hobby, and watch YouTube videos in English about that. So it's a topic you already know well, and it's something you're already interested in. And that's totally different than buying a textbook that just lays out some dry topics that you may not care about, but you're like, well, I have to learn about the American criminal justice system so that my English will get better. I don't care about the American criminal justice system, but that's what the textbook wants me to do. No, that's not the best way to go about it. You want to continue to be inspired. It's going to be really hard work, and there's no way around that. And you might as well try to go an avenue that's going to be as enjoyable as possible, that keeps you inspired to keep going. I mean, for me personally, I can't robotically just go through and study a language. I have to have a purpose behind it. It's one of the reasons why I do a lot of manga reading, because that's fun, and I learn kanji and the grammar and language through the context of those stories, and that's just a lot more fun for me to do than to do flashcards and worksheets.
Whether it's by Japanese teacher or native English speaker. You cannot just implement those little fun speaking activities in the classroom where students talk with each other in their crappy English and expect them to acquire the language. If anything, classroom English teaching should be regarded just as an introduction or just another way to supplement the students' study, not the main source for their input, let alone the place for their output. Yet, this whole discussion of English education should be like this or that has been going on for decades, and the result is that the viewers, the students, will consume this idea that there's always something wrong with English education in Japan, and thus that's the biggest cause we don't speak English.
I don't know about not the main source for their input and place for their output, because a lot of times if you don't have that classroom environment to get a student into a situation where they're kind of forced to use a language, they're not going to necessarily take on that impetus to do it themselves. I feel like another role of the classroom is giving them an obvious outlet to use their English, an obvious outlet to practice. And I mean, I see this all the time with students that, they ask me, how can I practice more speaking? And I'm like, well, you hang out with your other friends from this class, right? Well, when you have lunch together, just have lunch in English one day. And they're like, oh, no, we can't do that. I'm like, okay, that means that the classroom is the only place you're getting a chance to do the output. Obviously, input can be done anywhere. It can be done in the cafe with your headphones in, or, sitting alone in your room. But output, you have to either get creative, or the classroom is going to be a heavy source of your output practice if you're willing to do it when you're in the classroom, obviously. So I'm not sure I totally go along with what he's saying there. But, I mean, not everyone can, jump on a plane and do a study abroad, or immerse yourself in some other English speaking environment in Japan, because they're not that easy to find. But yeah, I'm not sure I'm totally along with him on that point.
It always gives the students an excuse and room to say, well, I can't speak English because Japanese English teachers suck. When in reality, it's just that they didn't study for shit.
Personal accountability. Oh yeah, I took it for 6 years and I didn't become an Olympic English speaker, so it must be the teacher's fault. Yeah, that's no way to scapegoat.
Because the cold truth is that learning language is boring sometimes. Language learning is lonely. And on top of that, you also have to like the culture and the history of where your target language is spoken. And if you don't think that's worth it, then it's not for you. For me, the reason why I quit my teaching job is that I didn't find it rewarding to spend so much time trying to find reasons or motivations to learn English for someone else when they simply don't want to, just so that my company can make more profit. Speaking English is beneficial, that's already established, but does it make it necessary for everyone? Absolutely not. Private language schools are also part of this issue. Since English teaching is a big business industry, a lot of those companies claim they figured out the best learning method and try really hard to come up with those fake reasons why you need to study English when there's no such things. And yet I have to somehow pretend that I am the one who can make other people fluent in English? Hell no. Also, not to mention, the said best method is often not the best way for the students. It's the best way for their program can be extended so they can keep milking their students. I'm not talking about my company in particular, but still I didn't want to be in the industry in general and be part of the problem. It's not that I don't believe there's room for improvement in Japanese English education. I mean, it is bad. That's no-brainer. I do think that it can be improved and it's important. But what's also important to teach is that learning a language is extremely hard. There is no magic behind it, and it may not be meant for everybody, and that is totally okay. What they need to know is how much commitment and dedication they have to make. Instead of trying to come up with better ways of teaching English that works for every single Japanese person, we have to teach them that learning a language in a traditional classroom environment is an illusion, is a myth, so that the students won't have such unrealistic expectations for the future education system.
I agree and disagree. I don't think it's a myth. I don't think it's in a way he's painting it as not being particularly useful, and I don't think that's true. I've met so many students that are taking, for example, my advanced elective courses, and when I ask them, why are you so interested in studying English, it comes back to, I had this teacher in high school, or I had this teacher in junior high school, or my mom was sending me to these special English classes when I was a little kid. And so the classroom can be the starting point, and it of course can be a place to learn and grow and improve your English skills. But I also agree that it can't be just that. If you're just like, I'm going to go to my English class 3 days a week and that'll make me good at English, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Them anymore and actually start working on themselves, for themselves, by capitalizing on their on the resources around them, because there is a plenty of them. It's 2021. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. I know it's such an unpopular opinion, but please let me know what you guys think.
I just let you know what I thought, SHUNchan. I hope you watch this video sometime and let me know what you thought about my thoughts about your thoughts. Something like that. Okay, and thank you to all of you viewing. I'm really glad that you came here and watched this video, and I hope you got something out of both SHUNchan's opinions and ideas and then my comments about them. I hope that they were interesting and insightful and gave you something to think about. I know that when I first watched this video, I was thinking, I never really thought of it from that angle. It's always been, how can I improve the education system and the classroom part of it, because that's what I'm a part of. I mean, I obviously want to always be thinking about how can I improve my classroom environment, make my classes more useful, practical, and inspiring for my students. And so thinking about, well, wait a second, we have to always remember that English, as he says, may not just be for everyone, and for those that want to make it important to themselves, they're going to have to put in the time and the effort and the practice outside of whatever classroom experience I can give them. Okay, thank you again for watching this. I put out a new video about Japan, society, life, and culture every single Friday. So if you've made it all the way still in Seiza like I am, I did the whole thing, then you don't have to subscribe, but I would still like it if you did so, and please hit the like button to help my video get out to a wider YouTube viewing audience, feed the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching this particular video, and I will see you next week.